Hi, I'm Sadhika, and today we're going to talk to Ayushi and Sumedha. Um, and we're going to talk to them about how they did their consulting prep. Both of them have also prepped for the Fin domain, and that is why we are bringing this experience with to you to kind of you can take notes about how to prepare for consult and Fin if you plan to. So before we ask them a few questions about their prep, we will first hear from Ayushi and Sumedha about a brief intro about them and where they interned at. I also have Shikhar with me, who is a PGP1. Shikhar, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi Ayushi, hi Sumedha, Shikhar this side. I'm a PGP1 and recently have joined Career Services under.
All right, let's go ahead.
Yeah, so hi guys. Thank you for having me. I am a 2020 SRCC grad in BCom Honors. I have nearly 20 months of work ex in consulting. I was majorly working at LDK Consulting for majority of my time, and I did my internship at Kedara.
Hi guys, thank you for having us with you today. I'm Sumedha and I'm a CA. I have close to 4 years of work ex. I was with ICICI Mutual Fund, both on. So I was part of an AIF initially, and then later I was part of equity research. I did my internship with Goldman Sachs, front end IB.
Got it. Perfect. That's a great introduction. So we'll quickly get into like a few questions that everybody has in their minds when they plan to prepare for both consulting and Fin domains. The first question obviously is that what did your priorities look like, and how did you kind of split your time when you kind of started prep between Fin and consult?
So for me, I hadn't really narrowed down on my priorities till much later, closer to D-Day. So in terms of priority, I would say it was 50-50 between consult and fin. But in terms of effort, I spent a little more time on consult because since I came from a fin background and I had done equity research, I sort of took my fin prep for granted. I wouldn't say granted, but I was able to afford to spend slightly lesser time on Fin because consult was new to me. So I thought I should be spending a little more time there. So initially to start off with, I would say my prep time was divided maybe 60-40 or 65-35.
Got it.
So for me, in terms of priority, it was for me it was a bit more narrowed down, I think. So in terms of Fin, I was pretty sure that I wanted to pursue investment roles only. So I did not look at say markets roles or IB roles per se. So that has narrowed down my work in a lot of in terms of the amount of work and effort that you need to put in terms of stock pitches and all comes in, I think, in the IB part of it. So for me, that was not something that I had to invest my time in. In terms of and within that, for me, it was like for me it was like it depended how on how things went, what my shortlists were, like exactly which I would end up choosing. In terms of how much time I spent, so exactly opposite to Sumedha, I had experience in consulting. I had actually prepared for consulting in my undergrad as well. So I had some information around, okay, what consult prep is all about, what are cases about, how do you approach them. So I had that initial idea and I started looking, like trying to revise and all that kind of thing early on. But once the shortlist came out, then so for example, and what happens in like PE roles is that once they give you the shortlist, then within very quickly they start calling you and setting up rounds and all. And once they start setting you rounds, so then like it's one after the other. So one interview after the other, and they take a lot of interviews. So and that consumes a huge portion of your time. So prep and that. So for me, after a point of time when the PE interview started, most of that was time. Most of my time was consumed by that, and a very small portion of it was consult at that time. But initially, it was primarily consult, and then just like trying to brush up, understanding Fin, a lot of my work ex, catering to that field.
Right. So, if somebody had to start their prep now, most people kind of are confused on whether they should like finish their consulting prep first and then focus on fin later on, or finish all of their fin interviews as they start coming in and then start their consulting prep. So in your opinion, does that really work, or do you think it's more of a parallel preparation that goes in? Because you have on ground practical experience about this, what would your the both of your views be on this?
Right. So, from my perspective, how I would view it is consult is something that requires you to keep doing cases on a regular basis, because if you don't do cases for a couple of days in between, you lose touch in terms of how to think in a structured way and those sort of things. It's not like you have to by heart frameworks, but
Hmm.
or learn by heart frameworks, but you'll have to sort of attune your mind to working or thinking a certain way. So that sort of regular practice, being in touch, is important for consult. But for Finn, I think the initial time investment is high. If you're doing a stock pitch, then making a model or building your thesis, that requires a significant amount of time. But if you're done with that, you don't need to keep revisiting your thesis or model. Finn, the part that takes up time later, like Ayushi very rightly mentioned, is you just keep having multiple rounds of interview, which itself will take up your time. If you want to consider that as prep in a sense, you can, but that is what will be taking up your time, the data part. So if you are done with a bulk of your work in Fin upfront, then maybe subsequently you just have to keep doing some incremental reading just to keep yourself abreast, and then maybe you can focus on doing consult cases repeatedly instead of going and making your model at a later stage. Is what I would sort of think of.
Makes sense.
I think similar to what Sumedha is saying, I don't. So I think a key concern of that you want to address today is the fact that can you do both? Can you prepare for both? It's such a, like, people ask these questions. I think it can be somewhat managed depending on what stage people are in, but it needs to be, front loaded, as we would say. So for example, I think if you begin early and you start preparing, practicing cases,
Hmm.
right? So when you start getting the hang of it, by the end of it, you will not have that pressure at the back of your mind that I've not done anything in consult. And the thing is, if you consistently do one case every day or one case in every 2 days, you start getting the hang of how you need to do it. So
Right.
even if, like, a few days you've not looked at consult, you don't need to research per se every day. So if you've done those cases, you've built that confidence. It actually, I think it helps you in the fin interviews as well, because it kind of helps you become more structured in terms of how you're speaking and how you can present your point of views.
Hmm.
So and then if you've actually also, as Sumedha said, if you've done that fin prep pehle, then
Hmm.
later on you don't have that sword hanging over your head that if I don't do this, I don't know how I'll manage it.
Hmm.
And when the fin interviews actually start, it is so time consuming in terms of, like, you will just get a call that we want another round of interview with you today, we want another round of interview with you tomorrow, and
Hmm.
these people take multiple rounds of interview. So it's just like you're
And it lasts for like a good hour sometimes or more. So yeah.
and it's insane. It's like, you don't get time also. So I've had interviews wherein my class was ending at what, suppose, like, our class ended 1:10. I was told to get into a call like at 1:20, and I'm like, can you just give me 5 minutes, I'm running from my class. It's like, so it's just that, like, if you can front load, I think things are more manageable.
Hmm. Got it. Got it. So, let's get into a little bit of consult prep related questions. So, how many cases? I know this is a very subjective question, like how many cases to do. And obviously, I want to caveat this saying that there is no ideal number of cases that one should do. But I just want to know your experience as to how many cases did you target to do or you manage doing. It could be like you could say 5 cases a week or maybe one case a day. How did it look like for you, the both of you?
So for me, I did not have a number per se. I genuinely at this stage can't even remember if there was a number I actually practiced. But what I was more concerned about was I tried doing one case a day. I tried for me, the thing was when I was doing cases and you move from one case type to another case type, I just wanted to see that, like, if I go from one level of difficulty to another level of difficulty in that case, if I try getting an industry which I'm not familiar with at all, can I navigate myself in that type of case? And if I can't, I just want to figure out where that is. So for me, if I can, you go from cases from easy to difficult. And if you don't like feel completely lost, if you realize that in the case can make some sense out of things, you
Hmm.
know, for me that was a target. Like, and I just like tried, and obviously you fail, you do lose, so you
Yeah.
try to look back and you try to check accordingly. I genuinely did not have a number in mind. I just wanted to get to a stage where I was comfortable that whatever case somebody throws at me, I can make some head or tail out of it.
Yeah. So in a way, once you felt confident with a specific case type, you would move ahead and try out another case type.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. What about you?
So very similar to what Aisha said, I did not start with a target number that I want to do this many cases. I think I ended up doing about maybe ballpark 40, 50 cases. I don't even remember if that's even close,
Hmm.
approximately. I'm saying. So I tried to do at least, I think, maybe uh, 3, 4 cases in a span of maybe 5, 6 days. So I didn't do a case every day, but maybe when I did a case, I did 2 cases
Hmm.
on a day. And again, like what you said, I just did cases till I got comfortable enough or confident enough to think that okay, I can handle this, and I'll move on to another case type. So I think profitability cases and market entry cases, I was finding it fairly comfortable. To get comfort in maybe unconventional and M&A cases, that took me a little while on how I structure it. So in fact, to start off on prep for consult, I started watching Victor Cheng videos. That took me, I think, a good week. I wanted to get my fundamentals right because I had no background in consulting. So just to get I felt that was easier to do than sit and read a book on how to approach various cases. So I started off with that, and honestly, I think that helped a lot. And I didn't really form case groups. And in hindsight, I'm really glad that I didn't because I felt like I would have just taken a single track, or I would have probably just got very comfortable with the same 3, 4 people that I was doing. So
Yeah.
I approached a lot of ones, one-on-one, and then very soon I approached twos as well. Maybe slightly selfish motive. I was like, I don't have to give cases; I just have to do. So time saved. That in fact, that is a good strategy if you're preparing for 2 domains. Of course, learning is there when you administer cases. Also, I'm not denying that at all
Hmm.
because the other person gives a new perspective, and that is also there. But I mean, since I was preparing for 2 domains, it's worked out well for me because I had a good number of tools that I used to regularly talk to. So I approached them, and I had a couple of friends from earlier batches, 22, 21 batch, who also I was friends with, who went into consulting. So I approached them since they were more experienced in the field. Also, I got feedback from them as well.
Hmm. That is an interesting take or a different experience. So thank you.
No, I agree. I think what happens is when you're preparing for 2 domains, what happens is like, you might have some work at a particular time. Maybe you were overloaded with some kind of a task that needs to be done for a particular kind of prep. But obviously, if the members in your group are if their sole focus is consult and they want to meet every day, you want to meet their commitments as well. So that commitments and starts clashing, and you start feeling guilty that maybe you're keeping them behind.
Mhm.
So there needs to be some kind of a balance. And obviously, I think at that stage, maybe when you start preparing, having while at face value it is selfish, but it's also in some way actually understanding and respecting other people's time as well.
Hmm.
Because you can just say, you can create a group, but if you don't turn up for that group, the other members of the group are also suffering.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. In fact, the next two questions were around, what resources you prepped from and case groups. So you all did answer the case group part already. And what resources, were there any other resources that you kind of used while doing your prep for consult? What other?
So I think apart from the videos, I just mainly went through the consult case books, the IMA one, and I think I also used case interviews crack and maybe the ISB one. It's not. I didn't really go through case by case at random. I just used to open any one book. So I think like a few friends, we had a shared folder with multiple resources in that. So we just used to open one book at random and register a case. And in case someone had a buddy who gave them an interesting case, or any other senior who gave them an interesting case, that used to get sort of circulated.
Got it.
So I had actually watched Victor Cheng videos in undergrad, so I had some knowledge around that. I had actually referred to the IMA case book and case interview cracked before. So actually, I think the good thing about case interviews cracked is like they're very conversational in nature. They show the flow of how probably an interview will happen. And initially, also, I think when the first two cases, they show you, what that person did wrong and how they might approach it. It just gives you a very good start into, okay, this is how, what the case solving is all about. I think that helps. But I think otherwise, I mostly refer to IMA case book. And I think while doing cases, we picked up some from IM Bangalore, IMB case book, and ISB case book.
Got it. Got it. So, okay, so this gives us a good perspective on how your prep looked like, which is slightly different from people who prepped only for consulting. So, thanks a
Yeah.
lot. Bye bye.